In the second game of the FIDE World Championship 2024, Ding was white. He started with e4, and we have an Italian, a Gioco Piano, and Ding chooses d3, the quiet move, knight f6, and knight c3. A very solid setup. If white wants to try for an advantage, usually they play c3 and then d4 later. Ding goes for just knight c3, not very ambitious. Uh, Gukesh goes for a6, a4 by Ding, gaining space. d6, a4 reminds me of yesterday's a5 by Ding, which was also in the opening. And now h6 before castling just to stop the awkward pin. Bishop e3, bishop e6. And now a5. Little bit control over the queen side for Ding. And now Gugesh takes, and castles. Ding also takes, and plays b3. A little bit useful move to keep defense of the c4 pawn against later attacks. Like a waiting move, you could say. And now Gugesh goes for the exchange of queens and we head to an endgame. This is kind of like a draw offer. If Ding exchanges rooks and then exchanges one more pair of rooks, it's just a completely drawish position and that would have been a draw. But Ding shows that he wants to try something here. He wants to try and win. This is a very handy positional move. Like it looks like a very bad move, right? Someone not at that level, it looks like a bad move because you're putting the rook from an open file to a closed file in front of a pawn. The idea is very simple. I mean, it's not simple. So he wants to keep the two rooks. If you improve this position, like what White wants is Ding would like to play knight e1, knight d3, attacking both the pawns, forcing black to defend, and then he would like to also after rook moves knight here, knight e3, and get that knight to d5. So he would like this knight here and this knight here. And the position would be completely good if white is allowed to do that for free. Now you might think, why not directly knight e1? Then takes, and the pawn hangs on a5. You'll have a good knight, but still, it's not required to sacrifice a pawn. That's why rook c1. And now he will follow with this plan of rerouting the knight. Knight d4, after a long thought by Gugesh, he took like 30 minutes of time here and played knight d4. Knight e1 as planned by Ding. Rook d6. Knight d3 is still not possible because knight takes pawn. And when pawn takes, rook takes, so wins a pawn for Gugesh. So knight d3 you have to prepare. So how do you prepare knight d3? If you don't want the knight to be hanging, it's very difficult to get knight d3 in, na? Now that the rooks are going to double. So Ding chooses king f1, stepping out of the forks that were in the air. Like there are some interesting lines here as well. Like for example, if uh, after knight d4, knight moves, this was somewhat in the air. So let's check the engine also along here. After knight e4, knight takes. This will not work out because it will be two pieces. Now after okay, yeah, similar line. Like if knight takes pawn here, there would be knight into e4. Not in the next move. In this move, now the point being knight e2. I mean knight takes knight e2, king moves, and you just take the rook. And after rook takes, there is rook e8, and the knight, one of the knights will fall. Like if you defend it, f6, and no way to save both the knights, which means black will be up in exchange. So what should Ding do there? Instead of taking back after knight takes, he can play just knight c3 because the knight is still trapped and white is better here. So this is one of the lines that could have happened. But after knight d4, Ding didn't go for knight takes pawn. He went back, and now knight takes pawn is not a problem. But after rook d6, Ding sidesteps all the folks with king f1, g6, hinting at f5, hinting at knight d7, f5, and the rook is looking at the king. So it makes a little bit of sense to play f5 and get some pawns rolling down the board. Rook d1 back, rook d8, and now f3. And now king g7, king f2, h5, and knight e2. So Ding is asking for an exchange, and once that exchange happens, it's just going to be drawish. So here Ding offers a kind of draw by repeating, and Gukesh also repeats. And here they agreed to, it led to a draw by repetition. So Ding was the one who stopped the fight basically. He couldn't find a way forward. Like in this position, instead of coming back, what else could he do? If he takes, the rook becomes active on the file. So he has to go back, and now it's difficult for him to do anything because the file is closed and you can't challenge this knight easily. So he couldn't find a way forward. Moves like knight a4. What would have happened if knight a4 actually? Yeah, just defend the knight, yeah, with the knight. And there's nothing there as well. So he couldn't find any way to make progress. And second game of the World Championship ended in a draw. So Ding is in the driver's seat now. He has got a win in his bag. So he's leading by 1.5 point 5. And tomorrow is day 3, game 3.